Okay, you ready, Bonnie?
I'm ready.
All right, we're gonna call this special regular meeting Wednesday, January 8, 2025, to order at 10:30 a.m. So-called opening ceremonies, exercise, invocation. We don't have anybody for invocation, correct?
Not at this meeting.
Sweet. Well, then, if you all join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. All right, so Bonnie, roll call, if you will.
McAllister?
Here.
Flynn?
Here.
Walter?
Here.
Spence?
Here.
Henschel?
I am here.
Nelson?
Here.
Andrews?
Here.
Morris?
Here.
Seifert?
Here. All righty, so looking for a motion of approval of the minutes.
Move to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of December 18th and study session of December 11th.
Second.
We have a motion by Henschel and a second by,
What's his name?
what's his
McAllister.
name over there? Commissioner McAllister, to approve the minutes as presented. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Hey, look at that. We're at the first public comment. Bonnie?
Any person shall be permitted to address a meeting of the Board of Commissioners which is required to be open to the public under the provisions of the Michigan Open Meetings Act. Public comment shall be carried out in accordance with the following board rules and procedures. Any person wishing to address the board may state his or her name and township or district. Providing a specific address is not recommended. Persons may address the board on matters or issues which are relevant and germane to county government as determined by the chairperson. No person shall be allowed to speak more than once on the same matter, excluding time needed to answer commissioners' questions, if any. The chairperson shall control the amount of time each person shall be allowed to speak, which shall not exceed 3 minutes. The chairperson may, at his or her discretion, allow an additional opportunity or time to speak if determined germane and necessary to the discussion. Public comment will be solicited during the 2 public comment periods noted in Rule 5.4, Order of Business. However, public comment may be received during the meeting when a specific agenda topic is scheduled for discussion by the board. Prior to the first public comment, the chairperson will indicate the topics on the agenda for which public comment will be accepted. Members of the public wishing to comment should raise their hand or pass a note to the clerk in order to be recognized and shall not address the board until called upon by the chairperson. The board shall not comment or respond to a person who is addressing the board. Silence or non-response from the board should not be interpreted as disinterest or disagreement by the board. Please be respectful and refrain from personal or political attacks.
Thank you, Bonnie. Anyone willing to speak?
Linda Pepper, and I live in Green Lake Township. And I want to remind you guys to speak into the microphones because I often listen to this at home and you make it a little difficult at times. Second thing I want to point out, when I was reviewing the questions for the National Community Survey, which I think is an excellent idea for you to do, that survey is so busy and so repetitive that you are going to get answers, but those answers, I'm not all sure about of some of the validity. I think it's a great idea to do it. However, having worked with kids and adults for years and years, when you give them something that's so dense, they sometimes click, 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 just like I do when Munson sends me another darn survey. So just think about that. You know, maybe a little, sometimes less is more, and you get better results when people actually read and think about what they're responding to. So just for your information, somebody who's done a lot of these things and thought about them.
Thank you.
Bruce Moore, I'm in East Bay Township in Commissioner Henschel's district. For the questions on the community survey, I would encourage you to add some options on some of the questions where appropriate to address homelessness and supportive housing, or however you want to phrase that, because That's one of the biggest issues in the county at this point, and I don't see anything on the survey that addresses that issue. Thank you.
Thanks, Bruce. Anyone else for public comment? Going once, going twice? All right, let's move on. Approval of the agenda.
Move to approve as presented.
Second.
Sweet, we have a motion by Henschel and a second by McAllister to approve the agenda as presented. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Awesome, thank you. So the consent calendar, the purpose of the consent calendar is expedite business.
I get to read that.
Oh, I'm sorry, Bonnie, I'm all excited.
Quit stealing her thunder.
I mean, it's not in the board rules. The chair could read it.
No, I'm on, by all means, please read
If you want to start, I.
No. What did I do last time?
New year, new rules.
The purpose of the consent calendar is to expedite business by grouping non-controversial items together to be dealt with by one commission motion without discussion. Any member of the commission, staff, or the public may ask that any item on the consent calendar be removed and placed elsewhere on the agenda for full discussion. Such requests will be automatically respected. If any item is not removed from the consent calendar, the action noted, receive and file or approval, is approved by a single commission action adopting the consent calendar. A, receive. Number 1, Traverse Area District Library, November 2024 meeting minutes. Number 2, ARPA status report. Number 3, Department of Health and Human Services Pavilions, November 2024 meeting minutes. B, approvals. Number 1, ARPA funding reimbursement requests.
Okay, anybody would like anything removed? Commissioner Nelson?
A2.
All right, A2. Anyone else? I would like A1 removed, please. So now we're looking for motion to approve.
Move to approve the consent calendar with the exception of A1 and A2.
Support. Motion by Henschel to approve the consent calendar with removal of A1 and A2, support by Commissioner McAllister. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Need a roll call
No,
vote?
consent calendars usually need a roll call vote.
My
To the board
apologies,
rules.
roll call vote. Thank you.
What's
Commissioner
your first day?
Henschel. Starting to feel like my last day.
All right, are you ready? Flynn,
Yes.
Walter,
Yes.
Spence,
Yes.
Henschel,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Andrews,
Yes.
Morris,
Yes.
McAllister,
Yes.
Seifert.
Yes. Motion carries. 7, don't see any of that. Let's go right into 8. Do you want to do it just in the numerical order? Is that how we do it?
Yes.
All right, so 8A1. Probably bring your attention to the district library meeting minutes for November. I'm going to go right to 7, the third bullet point, under 7, the director's report. This is just for bringing it to people's attention. I'll read it out loud. Following the opening of Safe Harbor, behavioral incidents in the library increased from 4 to 23 in the month of October. Police assistance was called a couple of times. Some suspensions were issued due to intoxication and threats of violent behavior. So my personal comment on that is, as we talk about homelessness, as we're moving forward, obviously, there isn't evidence in this report of causality, but even a blind man can see that there's a correlation, and it needs to be taken care of as we move forward to deal with the homelessness in this area. A public library is supposed to be a place of education and recreation for grandparents and grandkids, parents and children, and for learning for all ages, not where I could be subjected to some drunken, drug-addled debauchery. It's inappropriate. The library belongs to everybody, including the county. That's all I have. Any comments?
Well, it also is open to everybody, including those experiencing homelessness. And it does happen
And
every.
your mic, Ashley.
It does happen every year that when Safe Harbor opens again and there's more folks in that area, and then they don't have a place to go during the day. Many do go to the library, and they have a budget for the security officers, and then things do go down. I had a meeting with the library director recently about it, and things have leveled off again. So it is an annual issue. when that happens, and then it does level off, and I'm sure she'd be happy to talk to you more about it.
I look forward to that, but this is not even a yearly issue. This is a decade issue because it's been better in a decade that this happens, and it shouldn't be happening. We're not 8 Mile and Woodward.
How's it work out in Kingsley at the library? I can tell you in Interlochen, it's not like that.
Not Kingsley.
Well, there's not a shelter a block from the
My
Kingsley
point exactly.
Library.
Thank you. So I'm going to motion to approve.
Support. Second.
A motion to receive.
I'm sorry, a motion to receive.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Andrews. Is this a roll call as well? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Thank you. Items moving consent calendar A2.
Yeah, thank you. And Jenny, this is certainly not a criticism, but at the December meeting, we changed in the Whitewater Township in the revenue loss section, second from the bottom there on that page, the Lossy Natural Trail Wetlands Mitigation and Improvement was changed to the fire engine. I just wanted to make note of it. Again, you're doing such a fantastic job with this big project. I do not want to make it act like I'm being critical. I just wanted to clarify. So, and with that, I'll make the motion to receive.
Support.
So Commissioner Nelson made a motion to receive, support by Seifert. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Okay, departmental items. Anybody? Sweet, I love you all. Moving on, unfinished business, 10A. Go right ahead.
No, I'm
I'm
just.
sorry. We good?
Yep, sorry.
No, you're all right. By all means, don't be shy. So, I'm going to let Commissioner Andrews talk about this.
Sure. There was a safety team, there's an existing safety team that includes city, county, law enforcement departments, others that meet regularly following, I want to say it was the November, nope, it was the October decision to, an issue was brought forward with some modifications. At that board meeting, this board appointed, or that board appointed Commissioners Seifert, myself, and Jewett to an ad hoc to engage with the existing safety team to discuss some of the issues that had arisen. In part, had to do with the carrying of firearms by employees and the rules and policies around that. That ad hoc, or that ad hoc committee met with the safety team once, if I recall correctly, met on December 6th. We had some information at that point. We asked for additional information at that point. There was a second meeting, but it had to be canceled due to schedules. So there's an ongoing process that was started and hasn't finished. And I think the idea here is to continue that work. But since ad hocs dissolve by operation of our rules and otherwise, it requires a motion in order for that to continue. So I think this is somewhat of a procedural matter, as I understand it, and maybe our representatives from administration who were both participated and have perspectives on this have something you want to say. You look
Well, I think
anticipatory.
you've characterized it completely accurately, and I think it should continue.
All right. Anyone want to give me a motion?
I'll move to appoint an ad hoc to continue the review of the county safety policies, although I'll say there's only two of us that are still on it from before. So I guess one question is, does anyone else want to be on it? And if not, I think we can have an ad hoc of two to just continue that work.
I would help.
Solid.
So the
A
motion
second.
is to appoint an ad hoc to continue review of the workplace safety policies and appoint
Myself, Commissioner Andrews, and Commissioner McAllister.
to that committee.
Commissioner, what's his name?
What's his name over there? Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, who would you appoint to be the initial chair of this ad hoc?
Oh, it'll be me, I guess. I need to practice, clearly.
Yeah, you're doing good. You're doing good.
I'm going to hand it off real fast. Commissioner, what's his name?
You're pointing yourself?
Point myself. Thank you, Mr.
I
Henson.
think Commissioner Flynn seconded.
The motion.
Yep.
You got it, Bonnie?
Motion by
TJ, Commissioner Andrews.
Seconded by Flynn, to appoint an ad hoc committee to review the county safety policies, and the ad hoc committee is Seifert, Andrews, and what's his name? McAllister.
Any more discussion?
Aye.
We don't need a roll call, do we? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Excellent, thank you, the motion carries. Unfinished business 10B, custom questions for the survey.
So Mr. Cameron is here to speak to you about the questions that we have talked about previously in board meetings in December. And he gave an opportunity to ask commissioners for input. Commissioners gave input, and we're here to come back to you about the process to date.
Welcome.
Thank you. Good morning and Happy New Year to everyone. My name is Maxwell Cameron, the Community Development Coordinator for Grand Traverse County. As Mr. Alger indicated, and as you may recall, at the last board meeting, regular board meeting last year, we had shared a draft of our custom national community survey questions, and fortunate enough to get some feedback and comments. We subsequently revised our questions and are bringing them here to you today for review and approval. So if there's any questions or comments, we'd love to hear from you.
Any comments or questions?
I have a question. Thanks for being here. These questions that are first on the document, are those to replace the National Community Survey questions?
Great question. So what we have the opportunity to do with our contract with Polco is ask a number of customized questions in addition to the standardized survey instrument that constitutes the NCS survey. So we've been participating in this survey since 2020, allowing us to get a couple iterations of feedback from our residents in response to, again, these standardized questions. And the questions that we brought to the last meeting, as well as what we're sharing an updated version of today, would be in addition to that standard instrument. So they would follow those standard questions, and they're customized really to some of the feedback that we've received in the past. So some of the areas where we were statistically below the benchmark was related to mobility, transparency, and issues around housing. And so that's sort of how we came up with some of these customized questions to dig a little bit deeper in our community in those realms.
I read over the draft that has been redlined and edited, and those are really good questions, but I did look at the National Community Survey questions, and being a urban and regional planner myself, it's really important to make things comfortable for the community in order to encourage people to engage and participate. And it'd be really nice to take some of those really important questions in the National Community Surveys, but simplify it a little bit. I like yours, or the one that is first presented, but the one from the National Community Survey I think is busy, and it'd be nice if we could maybe use some of those questions and customize them more.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I mean, I think the challenge with that is that then you lose the ability to compare them across communities, because I think one of the assets of the National Community Survey is that their questions are asked broadly, and that lets you then compare answers. And if we start changing up their questions, if that's an option, I think you lose that sort of benchmarking of opportunity on their questions. I think that's the idea of having customized questions in addition to their questions. That's just my understanding.
It shows trends over time because we get the same answers from a couple years ago and the past. Though I don't disagree because it's probably way too many, but there is a reason overall. And I also agree there are some questions in there that the county has no role in at all, but we ask them, so it's confusing for people. Street cleaning, or there's things in there that really isn't a job of the county. although we ask people's opinion, making it look like we are somehow responsible for some of these things, but
You mean the county's not responsible for everything? Shucks.
I think it's important to understand also that, and we could probably do a better job at this in the presentation of the survey, is the end result of the survey is a community livability report that shows the trends over time and where people are where the county or our local municipalities are trending ahead or behind of other communities. And my sense would be that if we asked Polco or NRC if we could change their questions, the answer would likely be no.
Are there other, like the National Opinion Research Center, NORC, they exist? Are there other research centers that we can work with, or have we always contracted with the National Research Center Incorporated?
We've been using this survey since 2020. I don't know if we've looked into other services or had a different provider for a survey in the past, but I can tell you that this would be the third iteration. So again, pointing out to the opportunity to look at the trends in our community, what has been asked in the past with these standardized questions and getting those responses and analyzing them. For the responses that we received this year, it affords us that ability once we have, uniform survey questions.
They're great questions, but it is a little busy, and it's always nice to get people to participate, and I just worry people might shut down. But if this is the way it's been, and if this is where we're going to get like an unbiased, objective, really good feedback, I understand.
did
So,
approve
hey,
this
Max.
contract already, but we could, next time it comes up, we can look at other vendors if you want to.
Mr. McAllister.
So you were just moved up from Detroit area? Did you use the same survey down there, or did you have something else that you used, or was that not part of what you did?
That wasn't in the scope of my previous work. This would be my first time working with the NCS survey.
All right.
Maxwell, the nice thing about working with NCS is they are a nationwide survey company that works with municipalities of different levels. Will they have benchmarks automatically coming with the final report to, if everyone says housing's an issue, but everyone in the nation says housing's an issue, it kind of gives us a baseline that, yeah, we're in the same struggle as everyone else versus something that our constituents might see as a problem that isn't a problem elsewhere. Is that something we have to ask for, or does that come automatically with this report?
That's a great question. The benchmark, we can dig in and provide additional information about what the benchmark that we receive related to our report. I don't have that information right now, but I'm happy to provide that. I don't know if anybody else would be able to speak to that, but
Thank
it's
you.
a great question.
We have received that in the past,
Yeah.
so I'm assuming we would again.
So, go ahead, Commissioner Andrews.
Specifically, going through the questions on the first question, I feel like there should be a question about temporary housing or short-term housing. One of the bullet points should, I think, include that. I am not, frankly, convinced that that most people who take the survey will understand the volume of subsidized affordable housing. I think that's pretty difficult to assess, but I don't care if that's in there, but I would suggest that we could expand that if we're going to be comprehensive to include temporary housing or short-term housing.
You mean like vacation homes?
Yep.
Maybe we'd be more explicit then.
Vacation homes.
Okay.
But just an idea, I don't know if anybody is opposed to asking about that, but it seems like we're trying to give a list of all the possible types of housing in our community, and that's obviously one of them.
I concur.
Personally, my view on number 2 is it's too narrow. Leveraging tax incentives is only one way to address housing, but I assume there's a reason you want to specifically ask about leveraging tax incentives to support the construction of housing, so I don't have any objection to the way it's drafted, but I think it's going to be of limited value, but whatever.
I disagree about that because it's tax dollars or the people's dollars that are like, hey, we need you to build something.
Okay. I'm just raising that, I think, anyway. Moving on to question number 3. Personally, I don't think there's a lot of value in that question because because that's as likely to be interpreted as a person who works for the township, the city, the county, the
Are you
sheriff.
looking at the red
court.
line copy? It's
Yeah, the
already
red line
out.
version.
It's already gone.
No, the one that says 3 questions.
the new
Thinking about
3.
your most recent, yeah,
Okay.
I'm skipping over the removed one. Your most recent interaction with staff or elected officials of Grand Traverse County, please rate these. I just don't know what we do with the results. What if 100% of the people come back and said they suck? What do we do
I should
with
hope
that?
so.
Right? Like, it just doesn't tell us any
Should always strive to do
useful
better.
information, in my opinion. I have no idea who that person is. I mean, it might tell us that people have a low view on government, but I don't think that's what they're asking. So personally, I just don't think that's particularly useful.
Yeah, we also ask a similar question in the other piece of it, the standard questions about the service. So I thought that in the last meeting we had, we kind of decided we weren't going to do that approach at all, and that administration was looking into the possibility of having surveys within, people who go to building codes or people who go to animal control or go to VA, like individual department surveys rather than the overall generic service survey.
So would you like to strike question 3 completely?
Either that, or it needs to say, if you have engaged with a county service, example, animal control, veterans affairs, health department, construction code, how was your, you know what I mean? Like, to make it targeted to the thing we're trying to understand. But I'm also happy to just eliminate it in the interest of efficiency and streamlining.
And that is question 9 on the National Community Survey portion of the survey, if you all want to look at it.
Perfect.
I think question 4 is probably redundant, and it's not specific to the county. People could be answering as much about the federal government, township, any level of government. It doesn't even ask about the county. And the 5 bulleted items are very generic. So again, I just don't see value in that one from a county perspective, and I would just strike it.
I think there's also a transparency question in the regular survey, which has often gotten poor results, so we know the answer to that one already.
I don't know if there's anybody who has strong feelings about keeping proposed number 4, or if administration has strong feelings about
What
it.
we're trying to get to here is in the 2020, well, both surveys, it was very clear that the lack of transparency was a concern within our community. So we've been trying since then to scratch that itch and figure out who and how are we talking about lack of transparency. So I understand that's a pretty vague question. That's the effort, is to try to understand what's the community speaking about.
Just to add to that as well, the difficulty with measuring transparency is it could mean a number of different things. It could mean that the public view is that there is an opaqueness around the dealings of the government. It could also mean something more related to customer service or simply knowledge of what the services the county provides versus, a township, city, other unit of government, for example. And a lot of those questions, the questions you're talking about now, actually, as well as the question we asked about Epic GT, is to really figure out where we're getting some maybe negative marks on issues that relate to transparency, and also to figure out how our communication channels are working in regards to the projects that we are doing and promoting to the public. So that would be, I guess, the overall value to those questions, but certainly can understand that there is a little bit of vagueness there.
I mean, I would favor changing 4 from a broad question about government transparency and doing another question that's similar to 5. Have you gone to the Grand Traverse County website and used it, and for what? Just like you did for Epic GT, but be very targeted to some other Grand Traverse County. Have you emailed county commissioners? How was your experience? Like something, I don't know what, but something that's more targeted to something we do that might be useful information. My view is that question 4 will provide no useful responsive information, but that if we've got all these people taking the survey, try to get something of use to some. That's just a suggestion. I don't know.
I think the So when you say question 4, you mean the original question 4?
No, I mean the red line where it says, question, how important, if at all, are the following government transparency measures to you?
I would tend to agree that that's kind of a meaningless question. I think a better thing is to actually unredline number 3 and make number 4 back to responding, hey, have you reacted in the past 12 months with any of these locations? How was your interaction? Hey, it sucked. Hey, it was great. That's going to give us a lot more direction of where we're going to go and talk about transparency and things we need to improve. This is just kind of just throwing stuff out there. But I know that last meeting, we talked about this, that we changed that.
Just to comment on that piece as well, when we started to look at that from the feedback that we received last meeting and to expand that list, it got rather verbose. And so to a point made earlier today, where we were trying to shorten that up. And that was the goal of the updated question number 3, is to get some overarching perceptions and views of how the public is interacting. And then, as we talked about last meeting, potentially doing a deeper dive and getting some specific surveys if we're coming up with results that would warrant that.
Thank you. Any more discussion?
I did, lastly, on the last question, I would specifically include homelessness as a bulleted item, since I don't think it's not directly captured by any of the bulleted items, and I think that's an issue that's been raised. I think you could squint and interpret it as part of quality affordable housing, or the last one, supportive services for vulnerable people, but I don't know why we wouldn't just ask what we want to know, which is services for homeless or unhoused community members, or however you want to put it. And then lastly, I would say you noted that the issues we were trying to address here are mobility, transparency, and I didn't catch the third one, but I don't see any targeted questions towards mobility.
I think they're kind of grouped together with transportation. And
As part of the generic questions, you mean? Oh, sorry, I'm
both.
backing up. I'm just sort of saying the general categories of topics we were looking at addressing were, I think you said mobility, transparency, and you gave a third item, which I didn't write down quickly enough. Housing.
Yeah.
And I see the last 2 are covered by these targeted community-specific questions, but I didn't see any questions specifically targeting mobility in Grand Traverse County as a question. And I don't know if there was one before, or if there was just too hard to write, if it was captured by the national questions, but I just wanted to flag that. If that was something you wanted to dig deeper into, it might have, there might be some questions to add.
You mean a separate call out rather than listed in the, how important are these issues? Because there are several mobility questions.
Yeah,
within
I don't
there.
know if that's sufficient to get to the mobility questions that you were wanting to get into. But I don't have a suggestion.
Yeah, that is how we sought to capture that, but definitely, thank you for the feedback.
So, looking for a motion to approve these
Well,
changes, or what do you want to do?
I think that we would like to take these recommendations and suggestions back to the table. We have a meeting next week, and we'll work together to refine the questions with the information provided today and get them back to you next week for approval.
Do you need our approval of the questions?
I think so. My suspicion would be that we may not capture precisely something that you've requested, and we would like to be as precise as possible before we ship the survey. And we are getting into a position of time crunch, so we have a meeting next week. I think it would be an appropriate course of action.
Anyone?
I
Thank-
concur.
There you go. He concurs. What's his name? Thank you very much.
Thank you, and thank you for your feedback.
Thanks, Maxwell.
On to new business? Nope. Sweet. Commissioner Department reports. Anybody got anything they want to add? Commissioner Hessel?
The airport has a recess event this evening at 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. It's open to the public, and parking is free. Bring in your parking ticket with you. It's they do it every year. It's at the fireplace at the airport, kind of a social networking gathering. So airport at 5 p.m.
I believe they give out gifts too.
Yeah, I think there's door prizes, yeah.
There are door
Well,
prizes.
you
I've
have to
been-
pay $10 too.
It is a $10 fee
$10
to
to
participate.
attend. But the parking's free, so it's a toss.
So it's a wash. There.
I have a question on that. I saw that the county sponsored it. Can
Yes,
you
that is
tell us
correct. So I
more
was gonna
about
add-
what
Nate's
that
buying.
means?
I was going to add to that. So they did not have, typically a bank or something similar sponsors these events, and it's a year-long sponsorship. We were approached to even inquire if we'd like to share that sponsorship with somebody or just outright sponsor the event. Sometime mid-December, we decided that we would like to sponsor the event, and it gives a lot of publicity. It gives the county opportunity to provide ads in print, radio and TV, promotional opportunities for activities the county is engaged in. So yes, I was going to note that in my notes today that was a late in the year decision to host the recess events. It's not. I think it is the first time a municipality is hosted, and we're excited to do it.
What was the cost?
Just about $13,000, and I think, don't hold me to this because Jenny, 11,000, and I think it was near 300 advertising opportunities and the 12 different events that we can highlight an activity of the county at each event.
Fantastic. Sounds good.
I'd really like to see some educational advertisements because a lot of people don't understand how our government works. Talking about the survey a minute ago, a lot of the responses we get, people don't know the city from the county, from a township, from a village. So anything we can do to get the word out, talk about Epic GT, all the good things we're doing at the county.
That would be our intention, and the first one tonight is just, this is why we're doing it, and it was because the Board of Commissioners approved 4 goals through their strategic plan, and one of the goals is building trust and transparency with our community and providing a better service. So that's where we're.
And I think it'll be a fantastic opportunity to wear my new shirt.
Hey, there you go.
I hope it's wash and wear, Daryl.
I didn't wear it ahead of time.
Okay.
Yours.
Yours?
Any more commissioner reports, department reports, Nate?
No, thank you.
All right, seeing that nobody say anything, let's go to second public comment. Going once? Going twice? Fantastic. Any notices? Don't have any closed session?
We do have a meeting next Wednesday.
We do.
We will have to have an agenda setting ahead of that, so if you would be so kind to meet with me.
Absolutely. Tell the time and we'll be there, or I'll be there for sure. Anybody else? I appreciate everybody's support today, here and there.
When will the agenda setting be?
I have to.
We'll
Okay.
have to talk about it, make sure I can be there. All right, thank you. We're adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.